What is up, you guys? My name is Abriana, and this is Quinn. We are both licensed massage therapists here at TBR, and we are going to be teaching you some release techniques. So, most people have heard of or at least use a lacrosse ball in some form or fashion. But most people haven't ever used the littler version of that. And this can actually have a ton of benefits because of how much smaller it is and how you're able to get into some of the harder to reach areas that even a lacrosse ball can't always get into. One of my favorite ways to use these little lacrosse balls is going to be right on the palm of the hand. Sometimes the bigger lacrosse balls don't get into all of these little tiny joints very well and get in between them very well. So using this smaller lacrosse ball, you're able to really roll around on the palm of the hand, get in between each of those little bones that are in there, and really release a lot of the tension in the hand. Another way that is super beneficial to use these littler balls rather than the bigger lacrosse balls is for the suboccipital muscles. These are some of your postural muscles and some of the first muscles that activate to help us stand up straight. And since it's at the base of the skull, it's kind of a small area to try to get in there, and that bigger lacrosse ball kind of gets in the way. So this is a perfect size ball to do that with. I personally like to use a yoga block. You don't have to, but it just makes it a little bit easier to pull the ground closer. And then what I'll have my client do is I'm gonna have you lift your head a little bit, and I'm gonna stick the ball right at the base of the skull on either the right or left side of the spine. Sorry, what rolled? You can lay down. Either the right or left side of the spine. And from there, what they can do is they can kind of press their head back and then tuck their chin down as they press back. And that's going to get a really good release of those subocciput muscles. Another one of my favorite places to use one of the smaller balls on is going to be in this lumbar region. Now, of course, we don't want to go right on top of the spine. However, a lot of people have low back pain right on or right above the SIJ. And as you can tell, you cannot fit a big lacrosse ball in this area. In fact, if I take this little ball, you could tell that it fits much easier. And so you're going to be able to get things like the multifidus muscle, the iliolumbar ligament, even onto the SIJ a little bit easier with a ball that's smaller. So we're going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to have Quinn take that ball, and she is just going to slide it right along the base right along the top of her pelvis, and find where it kind of dips in. And that's where she wants to lay that ball. And then she's going to roll her knees over onto it, and you'll just find a really good release. Now, again, make sure you're not right on top of the spine, that you're either to the right or left. And then make sure that we're not just pressing our entire body on the ground if it feels too painful. Work within your own pain scale and your own pain range. And don't do too much, especially in that low back. Another one of my favorite ways, and genuinely one of my favorite ways to use this small ball, is going to be for the feet. Now, a lot of people don't know about the hallucis muscles, but we have several of them that control the great toe. And the one we're going to specifically work on releasing today is going to be the adductor hallucis. What the adductor hallucis does is it actually ducks the big toe and really squeezes the toes together. And if you're someone that wears like narrow toe box shoes, you might have a tight adductor hallucis. And so, especially for like runners and people like that, this is a really, really good tool to use in that area. And so what you want to do is you want to go basically at the base of the toes here, and you're going to roll the ball, allowing those toes to kind of relax around it. So I'm going to have Quinn lift her foot up, and she's going to put it at that base, and then she's going to press her foot into it as she rolls her toes all the way around it, allowing them to kind of flex around that ball as she's putting pressure into it. And this is such a great release, again, especially for people that wear narrow shoes or have foot pain or have mobility issues in that big toe.